Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome to Geek Fruit Retcon, where we travel back in time to a previous episode from our inglorious history on the Geek Fruit Podcast. Happy listening, you nerds.
Welcome to Geek Fruit. You're listening to me, Tejas. I have Jishnu and Dinkar also here from Geek Fruit. Hi guys, what's up?
Ahoy hoy.
Ahoy hoy.
Another...
I don't see my lines.
You guys are like Thompson and Thompson.
To be precise, ahoy hoy.
Well done. Okay, cool.
Bravo.
So we have a great episode today. On Geek Fruit, we're talking about Alan Moore's, but actually not Alan Moore's anymore, because anymore, get it?
Yeah.
No, because he very
don't
famously
own it.
removes his names from all his work after. I mean, like if it's not
The
on
stuff
the
that he
original
doesn't.
stuff.
Yeah.
So we're talking about The Killing Joke by Alan Moore and Brian Bolland. But before we do that, we have some interesting stuff that we did over the weekend and got some mails which Jishnu's going to read out. Go, Jishnu.
Mails, ahoy, from one and only Emil. This is, I think, mail number like 4 or 5.
He's back.
Yeah.
He's back again. That's what he opens with.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm back. Talking about spoilers. So, he basically said, and we've addressed this a number of times, always a little too late, that we're horrible about giving spoiler warnings. So, to that end,
Yeah.
spoiler warning.
Yes, that's true.
For this
We have
episode.
spoiler alert on mode.
Okay.
Thing.
So just so
For
you
this
know,
episode.
this episode's all about Killing Joke. We're going to be ruining the movie, the animated movie that just came out, as well as the original graphic novel.
Which came out in 1988. So what are you
So
doing?
it's
not
about time
having
you know
read it?
what happened.
Yeah.
So fair warning.
Yeah.
That is all.
So-
Cool.
so-
thanks, Emil. We will now
yeah.
continue.
We should have like a statutory warning on every...
Well, that's,
Yeah,
what,
we
he,
should
that's what
just-
he suggests. But I
Yeah.
feel like some episodes we get more into it than others. Like with the Game of Thrones one, for example, we didn't talk about the books, which was a complaint that another listener of ours, Ashank, I hope I'm saying that right.
It's like literally any name that comes to us, we're just like, we don't know how to pronounce it. Even if it was Joe Wayne or something, we're just like, hey man, I don't know. Did you say like Joe? Or
It could always
Ja-
be Joey because there's an E
It
at
could
the end of
be.
Joe.
There you go.
It is Joe and an E.
Yeah.
Anywho,
So, yeah.
So Ashank said that he wasn't too happy with the fact that when we talked about Game of Thrones, even though he's a big fan of the show, we did not really go into the books too much, and we had Alok here who has read the books.
But that was the point, wasn't it?
And that was kind of the point. So I understand where he's coming from, and I appreciate the feedback. But to that end, so we did not spoil the books intentionally in that episode. We wanted to spoil the show, the TV show, because everybody in the world watches Game of Thrones. Anybody that listens to the show almost certainly watches the TV show.
Yeah.
But not everybody has taken the time and energy to
namely
read all those
Jishnu,
books.
Tejas.
Namely us. Yeah. So we didn't want it spoiled for ourselves, hence we did not spoil the books.
See, it's our show. We'll do whatever we want. If we don't want it spoiled for us, we will not spoil it. But yeah, otherwise it's terrible to
Fair
just to
enough.
spoil
Game of Thrones also-
1,500 listeners a week. Just like spoil
And
any
I
of
think the Game of Thrones episode was packed anyway.
Yeah.
It's a huge world to get into.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fair point.
No, he's
But-
right. He's
But
absolutely
you are
right.
right. So
yeah.
I'm sure once we come back to Game of Thrones, which will probably be with the start of the next season, since there are only 2 seasons left, i.e. a total of like...
Officially,
yeah.
Yeah.
Season 8 is the last one, right? So they're less than, 15
14 episodes.
14
I think.
episodes?
7 per season, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yes.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, so I'm sure we'll get far more into it when that happens, because
Are
we'll
the
have more
episodes,
time to
because
let
they're
it sit.
shorter, going to be like longer in duration? Like, is there any mention
Not that
of
I've
Not that
heard
I've heard of, but I
Do we know
wouldn't be
why
surprised.
they've cut down the order though? Like, why would you make less episodes of the show?
I think it's because they're being very precise about how they want to tell the story, and I think, and that's it. I think instead of doing one season, so they're being smart about being corporate about it. Also, they said, let's not do this in one 13-episode season, which is the same length as the rest.
Right.
Let's instead, 10 episodes. Let's do this as like 2. Seasons which just have a little more than what is, regular.
Right.
So that's it.
I mean, last time, the 2 weeks ago, we were crying about how we struggled to finish Gotham, even though we enjoyed it. 22 episodes, 2 seasons, 44 episodes in total is way too much for some shows. And so I like the fact that HBO allowed them to change up how
Yeah,
long the lengths of the episodes are, how many episodes, based on just what the story needs. And if the story needs more or less, then give it more or less, depending on what the story needs, regardless
Wait,
of like...
no. So actually, we
you know?
may be completely wrong though. They
What?
could have finished this show in the 7th season, right? If they did a 10-episode season, do you think they could have finished it? And they said, no, let's do a shorter season and do 2 of them. I don't know. Maybe
Also
It's more than 10 episodes, though, right? It's 14 or 15.
no, it's 10 episodes a season. Sorry, that was my mistake.
It's usually wait.
Every
two
ep-
new
There are
seasons?
14 left, right?
There are
so
14 left, but it's going to be a shorter season.
Right.
But they're going to be 2 short seasons, as far as I know.
I think
Fine
we're
by
back
me.
where we started.
Yeah, we're back where we started.
So let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. We were very, very fortunate to get passes for a Harry Potter event. It was like a themed event, which is organized by Books on Toast, which Dinkar and I are quite familiar with. We've gone for some of their previous
The
events
previous
and
events,
stuff.
yeah.
And they're from Bombay. And do you want to just like outline
So
what
it
they
was
do?
an event called Alhambra, which was a Harry Potter themed event to celebrate the launch of Cursed Child and J.K. Rowling's birthday. So it was
And Harry Potter's birthday.
and Harry Potter's birthday.
Yeah.
That is true.
Is that factored into the plot of the play?
Of the Cursed Child?
Yeah, in the Cursed Child, yes.
I don't know.
I doubt it, unless like the Harry Potter world knows of one Ms. Rowling that exists. I
I've
don't
actually
think-
managed to stay away from most of what the play is about. I'll get my hands
Oh,
on
yeah.
a copy like
I don't
tomorrow
know.
or day
I
Yeah,
don't
that's
have a
good.
clue what it's
None
about.
of the synopsis have, and
Yeah.
no part of it
Yeah.
has given any way of the
Yeah.
of the plot and all that.
But
stuff.
I
Except
think
that
our,
dark things are happening.
The
That's
theory
it.
we came up with the other day, though, was that the Cursed Child is Harry Potter's kid because he has the most pretentious name in the world,
Which is?
uh,
Oh, yeah.
Albus Severus Potter.
Right.
It's the story
Yes,
of
he
Abhishek
is-
Bachchan.
yes.
Asp.
Yeah.
He's
He is an asp. But yeah, this was a pretty great event. There was a lot of stuff going on. It happened in this place called the Hive in Bombay. They
Yeah.
did up the whole place in accordance to the Harry Potter theme.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was quite
There were-
awesome. There was, and it
You
was
could
packed.
buy Mad Eye Moody's eyeballs, and then
Oh, yeah?
you could eat
And-
them.
and
They
consume
So
were-
them.
bummed I couldn't be there. Yeah,
Yeah,
wait, so
yeah.
what was it?
So-
Eat what?
so
what the hell
basically
was
there-
it?
there
I
was
think
an-
they were chocolate balls.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was Dementor Maggie, which was
It was
noodles
regular
that
Maggie.
were black in color. It was a little creepy to look at, but it tasted fine.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
fine. All of it
All
tastes
right.
fine. No, so
How
they
was the
had,
butterbeer?
they had a bunch of
That's what everyone wants to know.
of stalls.
Yeah.
Okay, each like peddling their own kind of Harry Potter themed wares.
Mm-hmm.
The regular cafe, which is part of the Hive, was doing all the butterbeer and the Dementor Maggie and things like that. So I think it was just a spin on.
Sure. So
Yeah, and
how
that's it.
was the butter?
So we never actually
We
consumed
didn't get
any
to the butterbeer
butterbeer
because
Oh,
the
come on.
butterbeer is not alcoholic.
That's an excellent point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I
So
don't
we
hold
chose
against you.
to
in-
skip
it's-
it.
No, and there's more to that story, obviously,
Sure.
as you know.
Yeah.
So there was also a hogshead which was serving alcohol, which was just beer, I guess.
Yeah.
There was
Though
a-
it had names of that followed the theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also had in brackets Belgian wit, and I was like, boom,
Yeah.
that's the one. So those were there. There was a thing called Three Broomsticks, where Mad Eye Moody's stuff, and then there was a chocolate frog, and yada yada yada. All basically your Harry Potter themed stuff. The cool things about the event, there were 2 or 3 specific events that were planned for this. One was a sock puppet show, which was themed around Harry Potter, and it was called Sock Potter something. Yeah.
Do you think when the puppets put on the socks, they are free?
You mean the puppeteers?
Puppeteers, yeah.
I see what you did
Yeah.
there.
But
Puppeteers
nicely
just
done.
stand and go
I
like,
see
well,
what
I'm
you
done
do.
now.
I'm sure that tied into the play, right? 'Cause
So
the song
what
is
it had
did you
to
see
have-
the play?
We
No,
did
we
not
did,
get to
because
see the
Dinkar-
play.
Wait, so what did you do at this
Ah,
place?
wait,
we're
we're
getting
Tell me
to
about
it.
so many things.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Well, I know what you did.
There was also a very tough Harry Potter quiz.
The
which was, that
world's
was the name.
hardest Harry Potter quiz it was advertised as.
Yeah, and it was packed, man. It was like absolutely full. This place was like really, really, packed to the brim. There
How
were a
many
bunch
people are
of-
we talking? Vaguely.
Maybe. I mean, the place
It
is
felt
not like
like-
it
felt
felt like
like-
about 100,
Okay.
150 people
For the quiz alone.
No, just for
Okay.
the entire
Oh, for
event.
the event,
I don't know
I
how
think
much.
it'll be higher than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was a day-long event.
Okay, yeah.
also.
So in terms of
Oh,
footfall,
right,
yeah.
sure.
So I'm sure there must have been more than that because
It's a
like on
smallish venue,
Yeah.
Sure.
so I'd say
It
maybe
looked- yeah, feels-
200 people
Yeah,
at
'cause
one time tops.
the
but
event
Cool.
kind of said that there were going to be like 700 people, like definitely going. So I'm sure like,
Through
quite
the
a-
day, maybe 700
yeah,
people. Sure.
definitely a percentage of that.
All right, so let's get to what you actually did.
We very quickly. There was the highlight of our day, which was the Quidditch beer pong event, which we were not even like. So basically, registrations for these events had happened like days earlier, and we just saw it and we were like, "Wow, how do we take part?" And they were like, "Oh no, all registrations are closed."
Oh.
Then I don't know if we had consumed some Felix Felicis which is the good luck potion. But suddenly somebody had to drop out, and that's because she was underage. She was under 25. And then lo and behold, the two old Harry Potter fans, Dinkar and Tejas, we swooped down upon her and we stole her tickets.
Well, was the main demographic below 25?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
I think so, yeah. Because, and here's how we know, so the Quidditch Pong tournament was happening in the interiors, like one of the main multipurpose hall of the Hive. And we went inside, and the moment like you enter, it's like a different world, because everyone over there is like old, jaded, really tired looking kind of adults who are also Harry Potter fans, just being like, this is the Harry Potter Anonymous kind of meeting, that was going on there.
As compared to the Harry Potter quiz, where there was this like electric vibe and like kids
Young
with glasses
people,
on going like, we can do this, come on, let's do this.
Nice.
Yeah, something
All right.
about like Sepultura. Sorry,
What?
I don't know why that was the word that was coming to my mind.
Severus Sepultura. Yeah, of course,
Severus Sepultura. Anyway, so see, I would have done well in the quiz, but instead we went for the one that was most appropriate for us. And lo and
you did
behold,
quite well.
We did quite well.
So
Dinkar
just
was
won the
the
whole thing.
Yeah. Okay, so I won it, but Dinkar went in first. Okay, so it was like Ashish Shakya from AIB was hosting it, as well as Hipcask, and then
I thought he was hosting the quiz. He hosted the
he
beer
hosted
pong
this.
as well.
I think Anuya was doing the quiz.
No, Utsav was doing
Utsav
the
was
quiz.
doing the quiz,
Utsav Chakrabarti.
Sure.
And the game of Quidditch Pong is fairly simple. It's like regular beer pong, except there are 3 hoops in the center. 2 hoops you can avoid because they don't make any sense. There's one in the center, basically, right after each one. I mean, like the one which is on opposing sides of it has a glass which is really, really close to the hoop, so it's kind of hard to put a ball in that. But if you put it through the hoop and put it in that's a snitch, and it automatically ends the game and you win.
Nice.
But if you miss it, then you lose 3 turns. So it's kind of a risky thing. And I don't think anybody in the entire
Every
tournament
single player
attempted
ignored
that.
the hoops and went like, well, it's beer pong now.
It just became beer pong
Sure.
with Quidditch hoops in the center. So
Quidditch hoops in the way.
So and so we went through it. Dinkar, man, first round nailed it. Like literally, I was like, wow, this is so good. We were like the seeded champions. We wouldn't have met until the finals, I think, and that's actually true.
Except I got hustled in the semi-finals by this lady.
There was ruination.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a walkover, so I think I got a bit of a.
You had somebody drop out.
Yeah, so actually, the girl who was playing was really good. Actually, she was who was supposed to face,
one
but
in
she
the finals
went
with you?
Yeah. Who I got the walkover from.
Oh, okay.
She was really excellent, but she went off for the Harry Potter quiz. But too bad for her, because I got a walkover and I went directly. So I did 3 matches instead of 4, and we went to the finals, got wasted, did the deed, and won.
I'm so proud of
And
you.
we won a bunch of Vox Pop stuff, and Vox Pop, who are good friends with us,
Yep.
gave us the stuff.
They're
That's it.
they're
yeah.
kindly folk.
Kindly
On
folk.
that very alcoholic note, shall we take pause and return to the topic at hand?
Yeah, we'll take a short break. We'll come back, talk about The Killing Joke and the DC animated universe.
Finding the right drink at the right place could be a big challenge. Exploring a new destination to its fullest could be a daunting task. So tune in every fortnight and listen to the Drinks and Destinations podcast with Rajita and Samira.
We bring you news, views, and stories from the world of wine, beer, spirits, and travel. Find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Audioboom, or any other podcast app you choose.
And so we return to 1988. 89? 88?
88.
88.
It's actually, funnily enough, this is like 1 year, just 1 year before Tim Burton's Batman, which was quite influenced by
Oh, yeah.
The Killing Joke.
That was 89?
Yeah, 89.
Oh.
And
There you
so a quick, just brief intro and thing about how The Killing Joke was written. It was by Brian Bolland, who was given the chance to do. I think they were both finishing their runs with DC. Brian Bolland was finishing off his comic book called Camelot 3000, and Alan Moore was just. I think he was finishing off. He just completed Watchmen, at least the run and the revisions of Watchmen and stuff like that, and it was being made into one paperback volume, and I think both of them both had really taken their time with their comics, and DC knew this, and Alan Moore was also like, he was being typical Alan Moore. He's like, I don't want to work with DC anymore. But Brian Bolland was offered the chance to kind of do his comic the way he wanted to do it, anything he wanted to do. And so he's like, they asked him to pick a writer, pick a hero, and pick a villain. And so he's like, I want Alan Moore, I want to do Batman, and I want to do Joker. And so he personally asked Alan Moore to do this comic, and that's how he said, okay, I'm doing this as a favor to you. And they were given like free reign over this because this was supposed to be what they call a prestige comic, which is that it lies outside the realm of what the continuity is and what the canon is. And so it was like a one-shot. But obviously, as everyone would find out later on, this would affect the DC universe to come. So yeah, they did the book, and when it released, it won a bunch of awards, Eisner Awards, etc., etc. But it's also met with a lot of controversy and a lot of, criticism, primarily from a lot of feminist groups and things like that. For the very obvious reason that they crippled Barbara Gordon in this in order to tell the Joker's story, this is the Joker's comic. I mean, everything is about the Joker in this, and she was used kind of like loose-handedly as a plot device.
As a plot device,
yeah. But to show how brutal and how absolutely menacing the Joker can be, and then he does it. He cripples her to kind of turn Jim Gordon mad, and just to elicit his point, which has obviously become a very famous thing that we've seen now, even in the Daredevil Punisher series. The whole concept of it takes only one bad day to turn you into a mad person like me. So yeah, and in this comic we also got the what seems to be a kind of a canon origin story for the Joker, which is through the Red Hood. Again, another character which has been used in like the 50s, but not as
It wasn't the Joker's.
It wasn't the Joker's.
Before.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So it's pretty much the accepted version now.
It is the accepted version, pretty much. We've seen it like crop up in the Arkham games. We've seen it crop up in. It's been alluded to in the Dark Knight. So there's a bunch of and there's a very famous line in this. He's like, I don't prefer to have if I have to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. Yeah. So I think that's something that obviously Chris Nolan has really taken and run with in the Dark Knight. So yeah, this became a very, very big comic, one of the most famous comics to kind of elicit the anomaly between Batman and the Joker. That they are two sides of the same coin, and and basically a lot of feminists said that this is a terrible way to use a character who's, and they were going through a lot of stuff at that point, because even later on when journalists were writing about women in comics, it was still not as women were not as portrayed as well as they are today. As in, we have so many. Jishnu, you've been talking about this a lot, about how the last couple of years have had Furiosa, we've had Rey, we've had like a lot of great women characters. Back then it was not the same. Though Barbara Gordon ultimately becomes Oracle, it was kind of a way of retconning it. So that's basically the story of the comic.
That's the context in which the book came out.
Yeah, and cut to so many years later, and we hadn't had an animated movie. And DC animated movies are so good, we've just never really had a good animated version of this. And they've done such a good job with The Dark Knight Returns and Year One and things like that. So Mark Hamill even said that I would come out of retirement from doing the Joker if I get to do this. And there was a petition formed, and the moment Force Awakens was greenlit, and they wanted to capitalize on that, they said, let's do it. And we come to today, which is the movie's out, and we have seen it, and we have opinions.
So I had not read the book prior, and I made that decision consciously so that I know you guys obviously have history with the book, and so you watched the movie knowing what you knew. I went into it completely blind. I read the book like 2 days after the fact because I loved the film, and I was like, I need to see where this came from. And I loved both of them for similar reasons, but the great thing about the movie that I liked was that prologue, which I know that a lot of people were a little upset or had mixed opinions about, because it was 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was quite
30
a
minutes of a 70-minute movie. So
the comic itself is quite short.
The comic itself is 40 pages, so there was about a minute a page, vaguely, at the rate at which they did it. So in that respect, when half your movie is made up by somebody else,
Brian Azzarello, great comic book writer.
It could get a little messy in that he could take it in a different direction that isn't appropriate to the tone that Alan Moore set. But I think he did it really, really well, because I watched it twice over. I watched the movie twice. Once before reading, once after reading it. And the second time around, I was still just as enamored with what was the guy's name?
Paris France, yes.
The Paris France character, as I was the first time. Obviously, the first time I thought maybe, is this is he going to be the Joker? Because he had a similar vibe about him. He kind of looked...
I suppose that was the point.
He looked
also,
a little
yeah.
similar to Joker when we see him in his origin story with the Red Hood. He has that sort of, skinny scrawniness about him. So I thought that's where it was going. And then with the whole Barbara voiceover and everything, it's all being told from her perspective. It definitely made what I just looked up right now is literally one page of dialogue that she has before she's shot.
Yeah.
In the
I don't
book.
even think it's a page.
It's not, yeah.
It's like
it's six panels,
It's
and then
six
she's
panels,
shot.
yeah. And that's it. Yeah.
That's it.
But-
So it
yeah.
really gave that a lot more gravitas because also when I read the thing, exactly as it is in the movie, she says, oh, I'm going to go meet a friend from the library, yada, 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 simple little whatever nonchalant conversation.
Yeah.
And then out of the blue, she just gets shot in the gut and then she's flawed. Now, for somebody that is a superhero, that's kind of a lame way to go because there's no fight put up. But the context of the fact that we saw half and half her like chasing after this Paris France guy and like really being a real badass and whatnot, setting that all up, when the Joker was able to do that, that made me appreciate the Joker's menace that much more. The fact that he was able to one-up Batgirl just like that, completely blindsiding her. It sort of it hit me more knowing that she is able to stand up for herself and is able to defend herself. Because in this, yeah, I agree. She's just, she's sort of just there, and it gets kind of boring. So
I think that's exactly
really
what they were
appreciate
going
it.
for.
Yeah, and I think
the
they did
entire
it well.
intent was to flesh out Barbara's character and make it a lot more impactful when she gets shot.
I don't know, man. I don't
I
feel
don't know
the
if it
same
worked
way.
the same way for me either
Yeah,
because
yeah, I mean,
when
you had a different context.
So
for
when
it.
I started watching, so just for context, the prologue focuses primarily on Batgirl as her and Batman have to deal with this nephew of a mob boss who's named Paris France,
Yeah.
which they address in a very meta way when they go like, yeah, he's called Paris France. I know. Is this a guy who's in the comics?
I don't think so.
I
No,
have
it's
never
not.
heard of
It's
him.
not in this. So
Yeah.
I mean, his surname is not even Franz. It's Francesco, and
and
they
he
call
calls
him Paris
himself
France
Paris France.
as his alias.
Which I think I read somewhere that it's an allusion to the Paris who kidnapped Helen of Troy,
Oh, nice.
which
All right.
might make sense.
Nice.
Well, there you go.
Well, he didn't kidnap her in the
Yeah,
movie.
exactly.
It's like it's Orlando Bloom. Come on. Yeah. All right.
Well, it focuses primarily on Batgirl and her basically getting in Batman's way a bit and kind of having a fight with him about how they deal with this guy until they hook up in a very...
Under a gargoyle.
Under a gargoyle on a
is just
rooftop.
watching them.
Isn't
the whole
that
time.
gargoyle?
That's
Doesn't
kinda-
it have a name or something?
Does it?
In the comics, Bruce, it's called something, right?
What?
It's-
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I can't remember from where I've read this. But anyway,
Well, yeah, so Batman and Batgirl are fighting because Batman wants Batgirl off the case because of her complicated...
it's the way she's approaching the case, which
the
is
way
that
she's
she's getting
approaching the case is
emotionally
to-
involved.
yes,
And the guy, Paris France, is really kind of...
He's a good manipulator.
He's manipulating and he's a womanizer, and he's kind of getting
He's
to
baiting her.
And at the same time, Batgirl is trying to say that, no, I'm using that to kind of... I'm trying to let him show that he's getting to me to kind of use that. But Batman doesn't see that, or maybe he's right. We don't know what it is. But obviously, the other side of it is Barbara Gordon's tale, and she's kind of conflicted because she's trying to impress Batman at the same time. She's trying to, she doesn't know if she has feelings for him, and those are kind of brought up with her friend in the library.
Yeah.
When she's like, I have this relationship that I'm in, kind of, but it's like, and she's like, how's the sex? He's like, there isn't any, and like whatever, and it's just there's some unresolved, some complicated issues, and obviously it's Batman.
Yeah.
He's the sexiest guy in the world. I mean, like he's the coolest guy ever. I mean, I would be surprised.
Do you think Reese, her gay best friend, has a thing for Batman?
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, like Batman is the epitome of human condition. I mean, he may be an asshole, but like which very clearly has
Which
been
he
made out
is
to be in
this
this
movie,
film.
yeah.
But yeah, he is the. I mean, he's a dark, brooding guy who's super intelligent.
Yeah.
And she's a young. She's
dead
still young.
inside.
So so that entire prologue kind of focuses on this, on this kind of dynamic with Paris France in it as well, and it kind of culminates with them basically sleeping with each other in this moment of real
Heated
rage and frustration.
rage.
She just like kind of pounces on him, and he submits, and they basically have sex. The follow up to that, or fallout to that, is that Batman is human.
Yeah.
Batman's a human, and he doesn't call her back.
Yeah. It's a great high school moment.
Yeah, it's a
Just
super high school moment.
Why won't he call me from his bat phone?
Yeah, and
Just in the car. It's great.
he picks up her call even like 3 days later. I guess he's like, you gotta wait 3 days.
Be cool, man. Be cool.
Be cool. You gotta wait 3 days. But yeah, so he's like, and for whatever reason, and this could be because, I mean, he knows he's done something. Maybe that he's made a mistake and he wants to kind of avoid it until this case is over, which is exactly what I believe to be the case in point for this. But yeah, he's still a douche for not addressing it as soon as I mean, if he really wants people to be okay, and if he really does believe that he knows everybody so well, then he should know that Barbara Gordon is going to go after this guy on her own.
Yeah.
And eventually he catches up to her and this whole scene happens, but yeah. So that's the prologue to this film. So what do we get at the end of that? Just want to discuss it.
At the end of the prologue.
At the end of the prologue, we see that Batman is kind of invested in her, but he doesn't want to have any relationship with her. Barbara does want to be in a relationship with her, but she's
with
him, but she feels
So she's confused as well.
she's confused, and she feels kind of, it feels tainted, their relationship.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Other than the obvious, like strengthening her character so that she's not just a throwaway, person to grieve over for Gordon. What I appreciated was that one, I never forgot about Paris, France.
Okay.
So that I thought was interesting in that they never addressed him again. Because again, since I had no idea what the Killing Joke side of the thing was, I was half expecting him to pop up at the end at some point or something or the other. So it definitely messed with my head a little bit, which I kind of appreciated, because the whole premise of the Killing Joke is that you're so, basically mind effed the entire time by all the stuff that the Joker does to them.
Yeah.
But obviously, we know how it makes Gordon feel and it tears him up inside. But I appreciated the fact that I was a little bit more in Batman's head as well, and that there was this established relationship that he wasn't simply just saving a damsel in distress, he was saving somebody that also mattered to him.
Yeah.
Obviously, when he's there and he sees Gordon lying naked in the middle of a
The
completely
average man.
messed up carnival,
Yeah.
Gordon is his priority, and sure, obviously it sucks to be the parent seeing their kid in these photographs and whatnot, but I also was aware of what's going on in his head to some extent, and that helped make his decision to not fight the Joker that much more interesting for me, because he had a personal stake in this fight, not only just to save random innocent. He was also emotionally invested in this person, so I appreciated that, which I didn't get in the Killing Joke itself.
Before we talk about whether he chose not to fight the Joker,
we'll get to the ambiguity
I
of
think
the ending.
issue with the Barbara section was, first off, when this movie started, I didn't know there was a prologue that was being tacked onto it. So I watched the first 5 minutes and what is going on? I had to
did you appreciate the opening line if I bet you didn't think this would start like this?
I guess so, in retrospect. But I had to go back and check my file name twice and go okay, so this is happening, right? And I really liked how the story started. It felt like this very medium stakes, episodic little thing. It felt very animated series.
Yeah, it does.
And it could have gone in that direction.
It totally
I thought it was building really
and
nicely.
It's the exact same cast also. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The problem to me came once that they started playing up the Batgirl-Batman relationship angle a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think if the idea was to flesh out the character of Barbara, the worst way you could do that is by making her suddenly fall into every cliche of she's in love with him.
That's fair.
I have the exact same problem.
She
with
suddenly becomes from a very a very capable hero into basically this teenage
Just
girl
another
who's
teenage girl,
complaining to a gay best friend, slept with her older
her boss.
her boss in a sense.
She says, yeah.
She gives up her crime fighting career just so that she stays out of his way, which is you're stripping her of all agency. You're not making her
I
a more
agree.
fleshed out
Very
character.
I think that was it's the same problem that I had. And so when this comic came out, it was obviously met with so much controversy because they said, hey, how can you just do this to this woman? Okay, she was just used as a plot device. Actually, that was never my problem with the comic to begin with. I enjoyed the fact...
Did you have a different problem? Or you had no problem?
No, I think this is one of my favorite comics. I mean, in terms of... From the Joker's perspective, I think this entire story is the Joker's story. That is my entire problem I feel with the film, is that they could have done more with the Joker, because this is the Joker's entire origin. It's all about his madness and about how that one bad day is what kind of turns people crazy. And he highlights that so perfectly in the comic book, and they've done it in the series as well, in the movie as well, where he just says, he identifies that, this Batman, you probably had one bad day, and that's how you have become this way. And that's exactly what this whole story is about. It is not about Barbara Gordon. The way she's used as a plot device is accurate, because the suddenness of the Joker just entering her household and just defeating her, and just that entire surprise element is what makes the Joker so like bizarrely, he's grotesque. He's the worst villain, and because he can do anything because he's mad, and the fact that I'm okay with them saying, yeah, we want to make the impact more for Batman and all that stuff. I had a problem towards the end that we didn't really get into Batman's head about how he feels about Batgirl, this happening to Batgirl, because he visits her in the hospital. That's the last scene we ever see with her until the epilogue at the end where she becomes the Oracle. But there's no real emotion I felt that comes out of it. That's one problem I had. The other thing is that in the prologue. Yeah, you're right. I absolutely agree with Dinkar in the fact that it's not empowering her anymore. In fact, it's doing her even more of a disservice. Like, if they had any other way, they could have made her like, I don't know. Maybe it's like maybe she doesn't have to. Yeah, I'm. You know what? The other thing is, I'm also okay with her sleeping with Batman because crazier things have happened in the comics. Okay, and it's as bizarre as one of those things which becomes controversial. It's fine, but like if they just could not have made her like feel like, oh, I'm emotionally wrecked and all that stuff. Yeah, it kind of. That's what did the whole... And then that story element is just completely pushed aside.
Much like Barbara Gordon is.
Yeah, and we don't see it. And I'd much rather have her as a person who's used to kind of show the Joker's like craziness and the horror of the Joker. And it's not just because she's a woman that's okay. We've just before this comic, or just after this comic, in fact, Death in the Family happened, and he kills Jason Todd. So it's not just a woman who's being beaten up or being paralyzed or being crippled. It's like they kill off Robin after that. It's not about who it's being done to. It's about what the Joker does.
The counterpoint to that, though, is that you have a whole story with Jason Todd. Yeah. Which ends with him dying, whereas with the Killing Joke, it's just basically starts with like, boom.
Exactly. So, and the other thing is that because that was in the canon and that was in the continuity, so that's fine. This was obviously it was a prestige comic. I want to read out something that Alan Moore said. He is not personally a big fan of the story at all. Like he has himself kind of said that this was it was average. So I just want to say what he says. He says the Killing Joke is a story about Batman and the Joker. It isn't about anything that you're ever going to encounter in real life. Because Batman and the Joker are not like any human beings that have ever lived, so there's no important human information being imparted. Yeah, it was something that I thought was clumsy, misjudged, and had no real human importance. It was just about a couple of licensed DC characters that didn't really relate to the real world in any way. And that's how he just basically said, none of this makes sense, it's not important at all. Which is, again, it's like doing himself only.
It's very Alan Moore.
It's so Alan Moore, but it's so sad because there's a lot to learn from this issue. The whole concept of the Joker's madness, because you see his origin story, you see how his wife dies in a freak accident, he's left with no other choice, and in something that is not his own fault, he falls into this vat of chemicals, and he comes out submitting to his own his own madness. I think that's excellent. That is the Joker story for me.
So basically, I think this whole series, the TV the movie and the book, the difference of opinions will always be the same as with anything, where in which if you see the first iteration of something, you have your own agenda in your own head, you have your own values you put onto it, you have your own things you take away from it. So when you see the second iteration of it, you're always going to compare it to what you have in your head because there's already a pre-existing story and a pre-existing motivation in your head. So basically, I think, speaking as somebody that had nothing going into this, my biggest issue, which was really a very small issue because I loved it so much, was that I wasn't really thinking that much about Batman the entire time. I wasn't thinking that much about Barbara, even though I appreciated everything, like I said. My biggest issue was the lack of finality with the Paris, France story.
Now, good point.
Some small little things that...
So what happens to him by the end of that that segment in the prologue?
She just beats him to a pulp, and that's it.
And then, she stops.
And that's it. So he's just beaten to a pulp. He's alive, but he's... That's all we know.
Yeah.
So... small little thing, like in the Joker's origin, when he's meeting those guys at the restaurant and then the cops come, difference in the way that it was shot versus how the story was told. In the comic itself, when the cops come, you get to see the dialogue where the police say, hey, this happened to your wife, this is the accident, I suggest you get a drink and go back. In the movie, we stay with
the guys
with the goons at the table.
Yeah.
So they don't know what he's being told by these cops. So they there's heavy breathing, they're touching their weapons, they're ready to fire, maybe something's about to go down. You don't know.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I felt I was more invested in those mobsters than I was with the Joker. So that's a deliberate directing decision to say, let's not tell you about what the Joker knows or Joker to be knows. Let's tell you about what these guys feel, so we care more about their agenda. Right
So are
now.
you saying that the Joker could have offed his wife before, and that is just like a plot
That was
point?
one thing that went through my head.
Yeah,
Really?
That's actually really
Because I didn't know what was being said. I just saw the Joker talking to a bunch of cops, coming back and saying, "Oh, out of the blue, this has happened, so everything's gone to hell." Really? That's a little coincidental. Why? I wonder why that is. Is Paris, France behind this? I don't know.
Okay.
So all these thoughts go through my head. So when the story
Good point.
ends the way it does, my personal agenda is this Paris, France guy was kind of cool
Yeah.
because he was a deliberate threat
He was a good threat
to
also.
both
Yeah.
Batgirl and Batman, even though he was bested, but he's not dead. So
Paris, France didn't exist in that flashback, though. I mean, he must have been 6.
No, yeah, exactly. But I mean,
Yeah. No, but
I get
is
what
there-
you're saying.
is
But
there
I,
more to it?
I don't think there's any ambiguity there, though,
with what?
with whether the Joker killed his wife.
I
and
mean,
kids,
yeah, but
or,
it's
No,
not.
but
It's an interesting thought.
It's an interesting thought,
Because
but-
see, another really cool thing about this, what I loved about this particular movie, this particular animation as opposed to all other animations, is with the whole R-rated thing, was that much like I found it to be similar to Dark Knight Rises, where the epic backbreaking scene, the whole fight sequence has no music to it. It's complete. It's just the sound of rain falling in the
Yeah.
gutters,
It's really
and so all
nicely
those
done.
punches are that much more visceral. Same thing here. The music was so minimal. Most of the time, there's not even dialogue. Most of the time, you're watching just a simple 3D camera move of
Yeah.
a cartoon drawing of somebody staring at somebody else. There's hardly any dialogue in the most pivotal moments. The most pivotal moments
Yeah.
are like, here's the epic line, and now here's a good 10 seconds of me staring you down. And that staring you down is where I'm left to think about what he's thinking, right?
Yeah.
And so I was basically dwelling on a whole bunch of things that clearly did not amount to anything, which is what pissed me off, because that was all about this backstory that was being led up. So,
yeah, that's true. Actually,
I had no context
That's
that
a very good
it
point.
wasn't
That's a
part of
very
the
good
thing.
point. Yeah, that they didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you're setting it up, it can't just be as a prologue. It has. Like only people who know it's a prologue know it's a prologue.
Right, yeah, exactly.
If you have read the comic,
Yeah.
very true. All right, cool. We're gonna take a short break and we're gonna talk about the actual Killing Joke element of it.
Hi, I'm Amit Verma, the host of the weekly podcast The Seen and the Unseen. In my show, I examine the seen effects and the unintended consequences of public policy and private action. I show how policies meant to help the poor often end up hurting the poor. I've done episodes so far on demonetization, GST, surgical strikes, immigration and MRP. And I will continue my forensic assault on the truth in the weeks to come. Catch this show every Monday on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app, and go to seenunseen.in for all the latest updates.
We're back with Geek Fruit. We're talking about the Killing Joke, and I really wanted to kind of bring this out, make a point of this. I think there have been 4 really distinctive. I mean, not counting Cesar Romero's Adam West Joker, but what I really love about Mark Hamill, who's done such an exceptional job in this, being these 2 separate characters. Like in the beginning,
This
when he was
was-
the Red Hood, I was like, wait, is it
this
still Mark
was-
Hamill? Is it some other actor? But it's still him, and he's done such a phenomenal job.
The voice work in this was
It's
all
unbelievable.
across the
all
board.
across,
all
yeah, yeah.
across the board.
Yeah,
It was
I think it's some of the
phenomenal.
best stuff. I was telling you that I'm replaying Arkham City right now, and the Batman is even darker in this than he's in that. So it
Yeah.
was quite awesome. I was just thinking that this Mark Hamill's Joker has always been like, and this is why it's so perfect for this film, is that he's always been like the madness of the Joker, like
Yeah.
the Joker which is mad.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is like Jack Nicholson was this kind of like gangster, kind of Paris France type of character. Heath Ledger was like the chaos guy, agent of chaos.
yeah.
Leto is like the psychopath, but this guy's like the one who's kind of nailed it, like in terms of how mad a person can be, and because of that, what kind of crimes he can commit. I really wanted to ask you guys though, and this is my question after watching this film, is that should the whole point of this comic when it was written was that let us give the Joker a backstory, right? Let's give us let's see so we can empathize with the Joker a little bit more.
Yeah.
But my point is that do you feel like in today's world do we need and this is really which one do we need, which one do we deserve? But do you think we need a 3-dimensional Joker, or do we think that Heath Ledger's character, which is just an agent of chaos, is so synonymous with how terrorism kind of goes on
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
and how it literally happens out of nowhere,
Yeah,
killings, shootings happening all over the place.
Yeah.
That is very much like how the Killing Joke begins, which is just like a gunshot, and
Yeah.
then it's
Yeah.
just destruction,
Yeah.
and henceforth.
So are you asking if we need a concrete
do we need?
backstory?
No,
I think,
what do you think we need
I
for
don't-
this Joker?
I think we should have there shouldn't be many of this. It should not become the norm henceforth.
To try and give origin stories?
No, it shouldn't be the norm to not give origin stories, because I
right.
think you do need some grounding in your rationale and your motivation for characters.
Right,
but
right.
I think the Joker is the benefit of the doubt that he has is the fact that Batman is 75 years old, right? So his story is just literally lore and it's legend and it's mythical at this point. And so much like with biblical and religious backstories, a lot of things vary depending on the different iteration you read it in. And so I think these comics, specifically in the DC universe, the Batman story, arguably more so than any other DC character, the Batman and Joker relationship has reached this peak of mythos in society and culture that I think it should stay ambiguous and just the continuing adventures.
I guess you can't even help it.
They will never come to terms. And that's why I loved this ending of I'm just going to tell you a joke. Let's just laugh and okay, cool. I'll see you next time, man.
So let's talk about the ending of this film. Very famously, also the comic is also equally ambiguous because but I mean in that we don't have any audio. We don't have any moving images, obviously. So all that we are left to surmise is that they are both laughing, and we just see the rain kind of go dark.
Really quick interjection. I remember when we last spoke about this comic on the show a few weeks ago. I mentioned that I hadn't read it, and you guys were like, "Oh, you haven't read it," but you've probably seen the final image.
Panel, yes.
The final image.
I'd never seen that.
No, the final.
You're talking about the one with the ha ha ha. Or the puddle,
the
the
one
rainwater.
where they're both holding each other
holding
and
each other
laughing.
and laughing. Yeah, that's the most famous
I've
one.
never seen that before. But the moment that I did think to myself, oh, is this what they meant? Was in the movie, not in the actual comic. So definitely not.
Okay.
Was when he shoots the gun and it just comes out bang 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 or whatever it says.
Oh,
that's also in the comic,
like
right?
a trope.
It's in the comic, but they shot it differently than it is. Click, click. It's different in the movie than it is in the comic. He's drawn it differently.
Right.
And the movie version of it at least seemed more iconic to me.
I agree.
In that,
I really
they planned that shot.
I really like how
he.
I mean, we don't hear it in. I don't know if we see it in the comic, but you only hear it in the movie. It's just that there's a click, 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 and then he also just clicks it thrice. It's like,
he's like,
it happens,
damn.
And it's just like,
He's
and it's great.
Are you kidding me? Or something?
It's fantastic. Obviously, the joke is hilarious. Mark Hamill has delivered it as well. Yeah, he's perfect. The ending, obviously, we have to. So is the actual sound effect there? No, it's not, right?
No.
So that's what I loved about the movie.
He says, "God damn it, it's empty."
Yeah. So what I loved about the movie is that you can actually hear him clicking thrice also, and it's
the magic of cinema.
It's the magic of cinema.
Honestly, this movie, just like the way that it worked.
No, I do agree. The killing joke, the entire
audio.
killing joke element of it was
pretty great.
Is dead on.
Like, and the few additions or changes they made there, I thought actually worked. Like the song that they added, for example.
Was
you like the song?
cool.
You like the song?
Yeah.
It
was cool. It was nice. It was a nice
cool
touch
in the
because.
moment.
Just to bring back to that point is because this Joker is not the psychopath who would not the Grant Morrison Joker who would who has a severed tongue and wants to cut everybody up. This is not that Joker. This is very much the animated series Joker that that kind of this is like it's like what this feels like, this movie. It feels like all the kids who grew up watching the animated series. This feels like the end for all the adults who are now, who were kids back then and now we're adults and we're watching this now. And this feels like the definitive end to those characters. Like, it's almost like those characters have grown up also. It's weird. Yeah. Because they were more, obviously, more cartoonish, blah, 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 because of the nature of the target audience. Yeah. But now, since we're all older, this is also like an R-rated film. Yeah. And it just feels like these are the same guys, and it is the same. It's the same cast, the same team, same everything. So it does feel very much in that space.
These characters,
which is why I felt the song fit very much in that spectacle.
This is really peculiar.
Yeah.
So when I saw the movie, I was like, oh, okay, cool, nice little song and dance. I get it. I see what you're doing. Cool, nice, all right.
Yeah.
I then read the thing, and obviously when I can read the lyrics of the song.
Yeah.
Even though I'd heard the song before, like literally 2 days prior, I didn't have the melody in my head.
Yeah.
So I would, as you do when you read something with like the poem or a song, you pick your own melody. Mm-hmm. And of course, I like mine better because it's just my own imagination. You can't compete with my imagination, right? So,
but you don't have Mark Hamill singing it.
I don't have Mark Hamill singing it.
That's the only ticket.
So when I watched it again, I liked it less than I did the first time.
No,
it was fine the first time, but just the fact that I'd read it and then I put my own take on it in my head, going back to the movie, I was like, this isn't as good as what I had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah.
That
Which is always going to happen.
So what do you make of the ending? The only difference, I suppose, now is that we have audio, and the obvious, very, very big clue is that the Joker stops laughing before the Batman does.
Yeah.
And is it finally certifying that the Batman is either throttling him or snaps his neck or
I
so
didn't
what's
get
happening.
that.
Yeah, so basically in the
it's always
comic,
been a debate
Yeah.
since the comic, because even in the comic, the laughter that's coming from the Joker stops in the penultimate panel, I think.
yeah,
Is
no,
that
but
not?
both of them stop.
Both of them stop.
Both
Alright.
laughter stop, but in the movie you can hear.
Oh no! So see, in the comic,
So we have it in front
Joker's
of us.
laugh is an E, and
No,
Batman's
it's only ha ha ha. The E is
Okay.
the siren of the.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So
right.
it's of the thing that is coming up. But I still feel like the end of the film kind of makes it more direct in saying that
I
the
thought so
Batman is
too.
laughing and not the Joker anymore. So he's all, and the movie it takes it one step further, because I mean we do now have this entire stake of him crippling Barbara, which is
Yeah.
like now an important deal for him.
Yeah.
It should have been either
Batman's
way.
like, that's my girlfriend
That's
now,
my
man.
girlfriend now. Yeah,
Yeah.
You mess with her, you mess with me, and he's like, I'm going to give you a chance. He says, no, it's too late.
Yeah.
We should end this.
It
now.
made it a lot less ambiguous, I thought.
I
Though,
yeah.
Jishnu, you saw the movie,
Yeah.
and according to you, there was no way that he strangled the Joker.
At the end?
At the end, yeah.
Yeah, strangles.
that
yeah,
did
basically,
not,
yeah.
That
did
did
not
not
enter
even
my
cross
mind.
your mind?
It did not even cross my
Really?
mind. Yeah.
I know, it always has.
I just thought that they laughed and it's
But
done.
when you read the
They've
comic,
just
did you
accepted
feel
it.
that?
No, I didn't feel that.
Wow.
My takeaway from both iterations was they laugh it off and they're like, all right, we are doomed to
Do this
play this
forever.
dance forever.
Which is
Yeah.
what
but we will
happens with
never
Batman.
but we will never come to the point of ending it. We sort of much like I suppose this is Heath Ledger that sort of like
Yeah.
incepted this idea into my head of like
Same. You mean Chris Nolan? Yeah.
we need each other. keep
Yeah.
going.
He basically
Yes.
says
He's
that.
like, I don't want to kill you.
yeah.
What would I do without you? You know,
Yeah.
that
That
line.
theme was essentially born with this
Yeah,
comic.
James Bond. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so there you
much taken from this. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
So
he's like, I feel like we are destined to do this forever. That's what he says
Yeah.
in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because that was the last time they did it. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean that there's so many layers to this. Obviously,
Yeah.
this whole Joker thing. I just want to bring up two comics. This is just for everybody's trivia. Two really good writers did a sequel to this, kind of like a sequel. One was called No Joke by Jeff Johns. Okay, who's one of the obviously the key writers at DC right now, and just overlooking the entire DC universe. And he wrote a story about Booster Gold. And Booster Gold's a time traveling guy. He goes back in time because he sees what's happened to Barbara. And he's like, because Rip Hunter, who's also in Legends of Tomorrow, he says, "Go back, save Barbara." He goes back, and the Joker gets the best of him, and then
And the
the Joker
story
takes
plays out.
photographs of him also. So he's like, no, I have to go back. And he keeps going back, but he can never save her. And it just says that he's destined to do this. And that's when Batman comes and says...
who's destined to do this?
The
Joker is
Joker's
destined-
destined to paralyze her. And because we need Oracle. That's the story.
Sure.
So that's one. And the Batman basically comes and says, thank you for trying. And that's basically how Booster Gold Batman becomes friends. Okay, so that's amazing. Second story is a story called Ladies' Night, which is by J. Michael Straczynski. Who, again, really, really great. A writer for Spider-Man, in fact. And he wrote a story about how Wonder Woman and Zatanna basically Zatanna has a precognition that this is going to happen to Barbara. And they want to try and save her, but they realize they can't. So they go in the future, they blah, blah, blah. They can't do anything. So what they do is they come back and they say, let us give her a last night out. Where they take her out dancing and things like that. It's really tragic, and yeah, basically it ends with them saying, I guess this is what's supposed to happen. So in all iteration, I think it's like one of those things like all writers respect, that the Batman
The
cannot.
story
It's like
itself
one of
does
those
not
things that
change?
the Batman cannot lose. You know, like every writer has respected that. Like the Batman never loses, right? Because he's Batman. I think this is one of the other things that has been so like deeply rooted within the continuum of like comics and Batman and the Joker, because it involves the Joker's origin story, that no one will dare kind of try and change this work because it's become so seminal. So that's those are the two stories that I thought I'd just add.
So every story that's tried to add on to the Killing Joke deals with Barbara's role.
Yeah, because I mean that
Everybody
was
was
the thing.
butthurt about.
Yeah, everyone
I
was
guess
the lack
really,
of Barbara.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, like it does
does.
suck what happens to her, but nobody sees the fact that she becomes the Oracle,
Yeah.
and she goes on to do much greater things.
Consolation prize.
And then obviously in the New 52, she's back to being Batgirl. It's comic books. It's fine. She
Yeah.
can just be Batgirl again. It's fine. But yeah, it's more about it's like how it's a whole apocalypse strangling Mystique. The same debate,
Yeah.
and how do we perceive these things in pop
Yeah.
culture and media? and
It
things
is
like that.
2016.
Yeah.
Anywho,
That's a good way of putting it.
That's basically it in a nutshell.
Cool.
They had to do this because 2016. Cool.
That
is our show.
Yeah, you can log on to our website, www.geekfruit.in, for all the information about all these shows and more. And you can also find us on all social media at GeekFruitHQ. Mail us. Where do they mail us, Jishnu?
Contact geekfruit@gmail.com if you have any and all thoughts on The Killing Joke, on Melissa Benoist. Is that how you say Benoist? Benoit?
Benoit.
Ooh.
I don't know.
Right.
I always thought it was Benoist.
I don't know. If you know how to pronounce her name,
it.
and if you have any thoughts on Channing Tatum and
Splash,
or Ron Howard, or the Robert Langdon series,
let us
or
know.
Any
but
of the
really,
above.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on The Killing Joke. So
Yeah.
please let us know what is your opinion.
Yeah.
And we'll keep it to ourselves. See you guys next week. May the force be with you.
Toodaloo, you nerds.
Now, I know the fan garage seems like a place which my mother fears I'll spend the rest of my adult life in, but fortunately for her, it's actually a great podcast on sports. Something else she wishes I chose instead of being a nerd. Get your daily news on all the action going on in cricket, fantasy cricket, and Indian football every day on iTunes, Stitcher, or even the IVM Podcast app.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Sorry to say, but there's been a slight delay due to the apocalypse having suddenly begun. As you can see, there's death, destruction, and chaos taking place all around us. But don't you worry, food and drinks will be served shortly, and I would recommend checking out
IVM Podcasts
to get some of your favorite Indian podcasts. We'll keep you going till this whole thing blows over. Thank you.